My name is Nadine. I grew up in a small French community in New Brunswick. I grew up in a Christian home where I've learned from a young age about the love and about the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. When I was a teenager, although I had learned all of those great values, I decided to be on my own and follow the worldly pleasures. At 16, I met the man who promised to love, to cherish, and to take care of me. 4 years into our relationship, although there was signs and red flags of his mental, emotional, and physical abuse, I still said yes to his proposal of marriage while he stated that things would change and we would have a happy life together. Obviously, once we got married, he felt like he had a bigger control over me. So the abuse became more frequently, and the physical abuse was starting to cause damage. Although I realize today that bruises and cracked bones can heal, it left me for many years with shame of what I had endured, and healing would take so long. When my son was born, I figured that things would probably improve and we'd get to cherish this little life that was presented to us. But that wasn't the case. The abuse became worse. I felt very lonely in my relationship. And that's when I decided to search for that peace that I had been looking for all my life. I started going back to church. And one night, all alone in my bedroom, I've realized for the first time that Christ had carried all the shame and everything I had been going through, and He loved me enough to save my soul. That day, I really found peace. 3 years later, I was carrying our second child. And although I felt that things couldn't get worse, well, it did. One night, laying in bed, I had brought my son, 3 years old, with me. My husband was out all night. He came home at around 5 o'clock in the morning, woke me up, and he demanded to have sexual intercourse. Of course, being 7 months pregnant, I tried to stop him, and as I tried to push him away, he grabbed me so tightly that I feared for my safety, and I also fear for the safety of my kids. So I allowed him to do what he wanted to do, and thank God, he never hurt me, and my son never woke up. It would take me many years to come to the conclusion that that night or that early morning I had been raped. Weeks later, my husband had been to a detox. He came back home, went right back to his old habits, and in a rage, 6 days after my daughter was born, he demanded that I pack all my things, take our son and the daughter, and move out of the home. I moved back to my parents' house. I lived there for 4 years and tried to focus on my life and recollect everything that had happened. I got a job, was able to buy a house, and focus all my attention for the next 15 years on work, raising my kids, and homeschooling. So 15 years down the road, I met this man called Paul. Paul is actually the type of guy that you wish you would meet. He was kind, he was loving, he knew exactly how to treat a woman. And if there is such a thing as love at first sight, well, I would say that's definitely what happened when I first saw Paul. What I didn't realize is that Paul was also struggling with his own dark secrets. And after we got married, I would say we were together for about 5 years, and then After we got married, I noticed he was deteriorating. His depression became worse. He started using medication prescribed by his daughter along with alcohol just to numb the pain. I figured that with my love and support that Paul would get better. But that's not what I was seeing. I was constantly worried about what he would do and if he might hurt himself. On August 15, 2018, I came home from work and realized that Paul wasn't around the house. Although his car was outside, I couldn't find him. I became at first very anxious because I knew how he had been suffering. So I started looking around, and as I stepped outside, I realized that our shed door, although they were completely closed, the lock hadn't been put back on. So I'm walking towards that door. My first thought was to ask God to help me to be able to have the strength to open that door. So I did, and I found my husband's lifeless body. I made sure that if there was anything I could do, but basically it was too late. So I walked out of there, very controlled in my emotion, which is surprising, but I think feeling God's presence is what helped me. I sat down on the grass like a little girl, and I had tears rolling down my face, and I knew I had to call for help. You may wonder if there is times that I have thought about going back in time. And I did for so long. I just pictured if I could go back in time and just hold his face and tell him how he's loved. And tell him that I'm there for him and there is help out there. But because we can't do that, we can't go back in the past, my focus from now on is to focus on other people out there who are suffering and have those dark secrets that they feel they can't share. My new beginning happened when I moved to Alberta in 2019. I came into the center just to see if there was anything I could help and how I could volunteer. I was offered a package for the new training that was going to happen shortly, and I accepted. I didn't realize that it wasn't going to be what I could offer the center, but what they could offer to me until I started this journey. As I'm in the training, I was extremely broken. Like Linda mentioned, I cried quite a bit. I will never forget the day when I cried for straight 3 hours. And in my heart, I figured Linda's going to tell me, maybe this is too much for you, Nadine. Maybe you should step out. But instead, she came forward without saying one word. She embraced me. And for the first time, I felt loved. I felt unjudged, and I felt hope. Hope for healing. We finished the training. I started orientation. And we went through steps to sexual health for healing from past abuse. We went through the 7 stages of grief. And from there, I was beginning to be a new person. Not that broken person that had walked through the door, but a person who knew that there was finally hope. You may wonder what I'm doing today. I am remarried to my wonderful husband, Winston, who has been supportive and been by my side every step of the way. A year ago, I was hired through the Pregnancy Care Center as our new client services coordinator. I believe that the trauma and the situation I had to go through in the past is really helping me to understand what our clients are also going through. It allows me to feel and understand their difficulties. I am full of gratitude to God to allow my story of brokenness to become a story of hope for all the clients I encounter each and every day.